Senator Barrow on Senate Bill 371.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, Senate Bill 371 is regarding surgical castration of persons convicted of certain crimes to children under the 13 and under. I have to tell you that I have struggled a little bit with this bill because I have people that I consider to be my friends who have said it, Senator Barrow, please don't bring this bill. But as I have stated to many of you, and to my friends as well, after going through the Tulane early childhood program a couple of years ago, my whole view as it relates to what happens to young people has been really changed and altered. And so what I have learned is that oftentimes some of the trauma that young people face has been as a result of someone who has violated their trust, someone that they knew, and has actually resulted in some kind of sexual trauma to a young person. And so this bill here will actually require that a surgical castration is done to someone who has violated one of our young people trust between the ages of 0 to 13. And so this would allow a judge to impose a sentencing that may require them to be surgically castrated. And this would actually happen before they are released from prison. So at this time, I will take any questions that you may have.
Shockingly, there are no questions on this bill. Here we go. Senator Abraham.
Okay, Senator Barrow, I'm trying to wrap my head around this for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
They only have to do it one time, and they could be. I mean, one time is not. Don't take offense, but I'm not saying that one time is okay. But we've said many times somebody might make that mistake, and then years later turn their life around for various reasons and can move forward. So my question is, so this could happen to them, and when they did something bad to 13 and under, and it could affect them the rest of their life, even though they might have changed. Are you following what I'm saying? So just, it's the first offense. I'm trying to give somebody a second chance. I know there's not a lot of second chances when you're 13 and under. I get that. But I'm just trying to, I don't want to commit two crimes here, I guess what I'm saying.
And therein lies probably, while I've struggled with it a little, in that for me, when I think about a child, one time is too many.
No, I agree.
And oftentimes, as what we are looking at, some of the issues that societal issues that we have in our community, some of these are as a result of individuals who have violated a child's innocence, and that child trusted that individual, and their life has now been altered forever. And you know, I can talk about a myriad of things that may happen to that child as a result of that offense. But that's why I left the term may, so that the court can decide, and they may sentence that individual to that. They don't have to. So I believe that we are allowing it up to the courts to decide what would be the outcome. But again, when this happens to a child under the age of 13, someone who's trusting an individual to supposedly protect them, who violates them, then the ultimate charge to them should be very severe, because of the consequence of that child life is severe.
And I agree. I'm just thinking of a 19 or 20-year-old that does something a little wild, right, which is more than wild, I get that, versus, you know, someone much older. Yeah, I'm saying, no, they got to know better. But sometimes a 20-year-old doesn't know any better. And anyway, I don't know. That's all I had. I'm stuck on the one offense, but I'm okay. All right, thank you.
Again, the court may.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just envision, an 18-year-old and then you got a 12-year-old that maybe looks like she's 16 and they have consensual sex. I don't know. I don't know if that 18-year-old should be castrated necessarily, but maybe knows she's underage, but maybe she's, doesn't appear to be 12. I don't know. But be that as it may, we shall see. Senator Hodges has a question.
I just want to say thank you, Senator Barrow, for bringing this bill, because the testimonies that were heard about how this does, it devastates women's lives and children's lives especially. They are forever changed. I had a question, but I think he answered it. So it's not mandatory. It's at the discretion of the judge.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
So how would he determine that? Like, what arbitrary factor would he be able to use, do you think? I am fully supporting your bill, and I think it's a good bill. There's times for people that do these things. This is not an accident. This is a decision that they made to do this heinous crime on a child. And so I guess what would be the factor that a judge would use?
And I'm not a judge and I'm not an attorney, but I would assume, using the scenarios that our colleagues have used here today, could be a part of the argument. Someone that's 19 thought presumably that the person that they were talking to was 16, which is still against the law because that's 3 years difference. But presumably if they are 19 and I'm gonna say maybe they thought they was 17. Which is in that 2-year window, and they had consensual sex. This is talking about a violation of a young person, which is totally different. But again, I'm gonna use their scenario that may be an example where the judge can say, this was what the older person thought was somebody that they assumed was older, and it was consensual, or he thought was consensual, or she thought was consensual. And they, this happened. And so in that case, that judge can say, okay, well, we're not going to mandate that this person is
But it's clearly,
castrated.
if it's a child, and there's no question that was a
Absolutely.
child. We're seeing children as young as 10 years old who are pregnant.
Yes.
That's not even a case that they could be 14 or 15 when they're 10 or 9.
That's right. That's right.
And
And we're seeing children younger than that. We're talking about babies
Right.
who are being violated by somebody who's keeping them. And that, to me, is unexcusable. There's no exceptions. I can't think of any reason that somebody could try to offer up in terms to validate why they have assaulted a child, a baby.
Right, absolutely, I agree. So it's a consequence,
Yes.
a step over and beyond just going to jail.
That's
And then
right.
getting out in a year or whatever.
And doing it again.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you so much for bringing this bill at the proper time. I'd like to move favorable.
Thank you.
Not quite the proper time. Senator Miggy asked for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was looking over the bill, and look, I agree. These types of acts against children under 13 are terrible. I'm just trying to understand how the bill works and how it's postured. Castration, would you agree, is an act that's only performed on a male?
No, it can be done to females. It's a little bit more of a complicated procedure, and some folks have said that it's actually probably more inhumane, but it can be done.
Okay, let's walk down that path a little bit. So we want to stop this type of action, right? Mm-hmm. Which is generally motivated by some type of sexual aggression.
Correct.
Which, if you castrate someone, is it correct medically that would be reduced, that aggression?
Yes, I mean, at minimum, it certainly reduces probably the aggression to the victim.
Yes, to stop the act
yes,
itself.
yes.
And then one of the products of an act like that is sometimes pregnancy, which obviously that would prevent that. we're all thinking about a traditional role where it's a male that's conducting this act against someone that's young. It could potentially be a female. What happens if you reverse those roles in some of the cases that we read across the nation, where you have a female teacher who takes advantage of a 12-year-old student that's maybe just gotten through puberty? And how does this bill relate to that? Would you be castrating a female as well? And
Yes.
okay, so it applies equally to males and females.
Yes, it would. And because the impact to males oftentimes is even worse, because if they share with them, first of all, it's my understanding, because I'm not a male, but it's my understanding that when a male shares this with someone, it's almost as if, oh, suck this up. This is a part of manhood, and you should be. Okay, you're a man. You're a man. She came on to you. Well, that's not the fact of the matter. That's not true. And men that I have spoken with oftentimes don't even feel comfortable in talking about it, because they are looked down and frowned upon because they are sharing this information. And so they then have to try to live with this, and oftentimes that leads to other behaviors because they don't feel comfortable in sharing that they have been violated as well. And so this applies equally to males or female who take advantage of children.
So we know if it applies equally, that if this were to happen and a male or female is castrated, obviously there would be no pregnancy involved because it would restrict that. Would it still have the same effect on a female and sexual aggression, or that's just particular to a male?
I don't know if I understand it exactly in terms of.
I'm asking you a medical question. No,
I know that
the motivating factor. Obviously, I have a dog, right? Mm-hmm. And okay, so you know how we're not going to talk the birds and bees too much here, but I'm trying to think of how this is going to work in the opposite scenario.
So I know that it can happen to both in terms of the castration to male and female, in terms of pleasure-wise and
not pleasure.
But
I'm talking about motivation, sexual motivation that triggers this. They're not able to control this, and that's why you castrate. This is very similar to animals as well.
It's my understanding it's more inhumane to women. So
it's what's that? Humane?
More inhumane.
Inhumane. Okay.
Yeah, to women.
So you think this would likely not get used only for a male scenario because of the medical side of things? Although the bill's written for male and female, it would probably only get used towards a male.
No. I think that depending on the situation, because again, it's left up to the discretion of the judge. Mm-hmm. So depending on the situation, I would assume if it's a situation that is probably very aggressive with a female to a male or to another female, mm-hmm. in all honesty, then that judge has a discretion to actually require that it is also done to the female. And so it's not just for males, it's for males and females, and it can be done both ways.
How do other states handle this? Is this similar, this penalty or this discretional enforcement action or penalty? Is this used in other states, or will we be the first? Just give me some
there are at least 6 or 7 states that already
let me know if they're permissive or required, and just give me a quick rundown.
I'm not looking at it right quick because I did pull that up, but I do know that at least the last state to actually do this was Alabama.
Okay.
And I can't remember if it is permissive or required.
Is it all the states generally permissive, or it's just discretion of the judge and it doesn't require it?
Some of them actually require. I wanted to at least give judges a little bit more leeway. I always believe in doing that. That's just kind of like my own way in terms of leaving up to the discretion of the judge. But there are some states that require that it is done.
Okay, I appreciate you answering my questions. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Senator Miguez. The board is clear. We do have some opponents. So we've got a couple that wish to speak. Morgan Lamondre and Bruce Riley. If you're here, hello. I don't think they're here. They're in opposition, wishing to speak, but they're not here right now. And we have Hannah Vandekar, Who is in opposition, not wishing to speak? Louisiana Center for Children's Rights. Ronald Marshall in opposition, not wishing to speak. And Tom Costanzo, Louisiana Conference of Catholic Bishops, not wishing to speak. The board is clear. Senator Hodges has made a motion to report Senate Bill 371 favorably. Is there any opposition? There being no opposition, that will be reported favorably. Thank you, Senator Barrow.